Hello, hello. Welcome back to the podcast. So good to be here with you today. Today we're going to talk about restriction and why it doesn't work for weight loss. And if you're like a person that finds yourself, if you've listened to the podcast before and you've heard me use the term pendulum, and every time I bring that up, you're like, that's me, then this is going to be a fantastic episode for you. Or if you are new to the podcast and you're like, I try to restrict, I try to cut out food groups or cut down my calories or count points or macro, whatever it is. And it doesn't work. It always backfires, or I always self-sabotage. Or you are coming here really thinking that, sugar is a problem and you're like addicted to sugar, or you just don't have what it takes to lose weight successfully. This episode is going to be really great for you. I'm going to really dive into restriction, what it is, why it doesn't work, and what you can do instead. And if you're thinking restriction is not the problem, restriction is the only thing that is keeping me from just eating all of the things all of the time, wait until the end. I am going to talk about that and cover that, and what you can do to really change this whole process that you're in of restricting. It snaps, it breaks, and you then like eat all of the things, and then you have to go back to restricting, and really getting out of that cycle so that you can successfully lose weight in a way that feels good, in a way that like you're still living your life. That's the ultimate goal. It's what I want for my listeners. That's what all of my clients come to me for, is to lose weight while living your life in a way that feels really good, that feels like you have freedom around food and peace around food. So that's what we're going to really dive into on this episode. Restriction really, it can look like a lot of things, but cutting out a food group like sugar or gluten, restricting yourself to a number of calories or points or macros, trying to follow a really strict diet. And usually underlying that is blaming yourself for wanting to overeat in general or wanting to overeat a specific food. Your thought process behind that is, if I cut out this thing or all of these things, then my problem of wanting to overeat will be solved. Restriction is kind of a go-to when it comes to weight loss, and it's really coming out of a lack of belief in ourselves and our ability to change our brain and trust ourselves around food. We really just don't believe that it's possible. There was a time when I didn't believe it either. It totally is. It totally is. And you gotta just cling to that sliver of, it worked for Hayley, it could work for me. It works for Hayley's clients, it could work for me. And keep listening to this episode to find these footholds of belief, because it can work for you. There is a place where your brain changes and it simply doesn't want to overeat the foods all the time. And eliminating restricting your restriction can really help with that. Okay, I think it's important to note that restriction is an action that you take. So if you've listened to this podcast before, you know that I talk about actions and where they fall in terms of our mindset. So every action that we take is preceded by a thought process and an emotion. And when we simply focus on an action that we're going to take, which, by the way, that's what 99% of us are doing when it comes to weight loss, is we're trying to only focus on actions. We're only focusing on the foods that we're eating, or the foods that we're not eating, or how many calories we're having, or how much we're working out. Those are all actions. And that's what we're taught to do to lose weight, is just focus on actions. It doesn't work. If you are a lifelong dieter and you're here, it does not work. Focusing on your diet only isn't a solution long term. It's not a way to have peace and freedom around food. It's not a way to live your life and eat what you want and still weigh what you want. It does not work. So this action of this simply inserting this action of restriction will not get you the result that you want. Usually, when we are restricting, it's coming out of these types of thought processes. So sometimes it'll be we overate yesterday or all weekend, or we had a tub of ice cream on the couch last night and we don't know why, or we step on the scale today and it's up and we can't figure it out. And so our thought is, okay, I'm going to restrict. This is the only thing that's going to help me to weigh what I want. I don't know how else to get myself to stop eating those foods. I'm out of control. I'm fed up with myself. Something's wrong with me. All of those thoughts give us the feelings, the emotions of frustrated, regret, doubt, no self-confidence. And so then we take this action of restricting, however that looks. And the result that we get, we think the result that we're going to get is the scale goes down, or we simply don't want to eat those foods anymore. But the result that we get actually is we don't have the ability to self-regulate. We don't learn the ability to trust ourselves around food, and we don't teach our brain to simply not want to overeat or not want to overeat those foods. So what we're doing is the restriction is a reaction to the scale's up, we overate yesterday, we binged all weekend. And it keeps this cycle of overeating and then restricting alive. It keeps that pendulum in motion. So if you're a listener to this podcast and you've heard me talk about that pendulum before, continuing to do this restriction process is keeping your pendulum going. You aren't learning the ability to trust yourself around food, and you're continuing your belief that you are always going to want to overeat these foods, or that you can't stop wanting to overeat these foods. You don't ever build that trust with yourself. You don't ever build that self-confidence with yourself around tempting foods. So I want you to think about what you focus on, you get more of. If you are telling yourself, for example, I'm not going to have any sugar. Sugar's the problem. I'm just cutting out sugar. There's a problem with me and sugar, and it's a big problem, and I just can't have sugar anymore. I'm not going to have dessert. I'm not going to have cookies. I'm not going to have ice cream, even though, oh my gosh, tomorrow's a birthday party and I know there's going to be cake there and dessert and I'm really going to want to eat it, and I just can't have it. It's a problem. I'm the problem. There might be cookies in the break room at work today, but that's a problem. And there's a problem with me and I don't know how to stop and I just can't have it anymore. And, is there sugar in my salad dressing that I'm going to have for lunch today? I don't know. Where do I draw the line with the sugar? Can I have fruit? I don't know. Like, think about that. If you're focused on sugar that much, you're thinking about sugar all the time. So of course your brain is going to have desserts top of mind. You're going to be thinking about it. It's on your mind. It's going to make it that much harder to not want to eat it when you're thinking about it all of the time. It's on your brain. And you don't have, and you're not building any tools to manage your mind around that desire to eat. You're not building your confidence around sugar. You're telling yourself, sugar's the problem. I'm the problem. I have a problem with sugar. I can't have it. There is no confidence in that. There's no self-trust in that. It's all full of doubt and shame and regret, and there's something wrong with me. What you focus on, you get more of. The more you focus on the things that you can't have, the more you want them. You are keeping it top of mind. So what happens is that takes a lot of energy when you're thinking about it all the time. And then your brain's like, well, I'm thinking about it, so I want to eat it. and here it is in front of me. And then you're like, I can't have it. And you're trying to resist it, and you're trying to use all of your willpower and all of your motivation to not want to eat it, to not think about it, even though that's all you're thinking about, like on purpose. That takes a lot of energy, and you're going to run out of that energy to keep that going. It might take a day, it might take a month, but most people cannot keep that up. Like a couple of days during the week, people will keep it up. And then as soon as like Thursday or Friday hits, or an event comes, a lunch out with coworkers and everybody gets dessert, and you snap. You can't handle it anymore. That energy, that motivation is just gone. You can't keep it up, and bam, you're right back to it. And then after that, you tell yourself, like, you don't have what it takes. I don't have the ability to do this. I don't have enough willpower. I don't have enough motivation. Sugar is the problem. You just continue this belief that there's something wrong with you, and that the food, the calories, the sugar is the problem. Your belief that is the problem, when that's not really the problem at all. Really not the problem at all. So if you're listening to this and you're like, but Hayley, if I don't restrict myself, I will just go crazy and eat everything. Restriction is not what's preventing you from eating all the things, because it isn't, right? Like it's currently not. If you are currently restricting and you're telling yourself, and you're telling me or yourself that that's the only thing that's keeping you from eating all the things, look at how much you're eating all the things. Like it's currently not working. Your mind is where this problem is stemming from, and it's where you can go in order to solve it, in order to reduce your desire to overeat, reduce your desire to eat sugar. It's all coming from your mind. And so when you take it to the source, when you take it to where the problem is stemming from, you can actually make a change. You can not eat all of the things and have zero restriction in your life. And that will come from a thought process that looks something like restriction. Oh, I'm sorry. When you believe that restriction is the only thing that's keeping you from eating all the things, your thought process looks like restriction's the only thing that's stopping me from eating all the things. I'm out of control. I can't stop. And then you have the emotion of out of control, if that's an emotion. I usually say that it is, but you have this emotion of like just feeling out of control. And so you eat all the things. Restriction is really not working. It's already not working. And that takes a lot of energy, and it feels terrible physically. Like when you're eating all those things, it doesn't feel good in your body. It feels terrible. It takes a ton of energy in and of itself to keep it going. So, and it keeps that pendulum swinging. Restriction is not what's preventing you from eating all the things, because it's not right now. So if we take it back to what we focus on, we get more of. Let's take our focus off of restriction, because restriction is the focus, and we're restricting this thing, we're restricting these calories. And so we're just thinking about that thing all the time. Let's take it out of that and put it onto your ability to not want that thing, and instead. So what that looks like is it's possible to not want to eat this food. My brain is capable of change. I'm working on building my confidence around food. I'm working on my ability to live my life and weigh what I want. I'm learning to trust myself. I'm learning to trust my body's signals. I'm learning to trust my body's signals and only eat for those signals. I'm learning to listen to my body again. Now you're not thinking about, I can't have this food anymore. And then that food's the only thing that's on your mind. You're thinking about, I can trust myself. I can change my brain. I can do this. And guess what naturally happens? You start eating less. You have fewer calories. You're eating cleaner. You're eating foods that feel really good in your body that are naturally going to help you lose weight. Naturally, you're eating less sugar. You're cutting out gluten because that doesn't feel so good. Like it happens naturally. It all aligns. So, what you focus on, you get more of it. When you're focused on trust, building trust with yourself, building confidence with yourself, you get more of that. And all of a sudden, you have confidence around food instead of blaming food and food is the problem. And you just continue that cycle. Food is the problem. No, it's not food's the problem. I can change. I can trust myself. I can have confidence around food. I can live my life and weigh what I want. And then you get more of that. Y'all, that is the secret sauce. Isn't that wild? If you don't think about restricting, all of a sudden it kind of naturally happens, but in a way that feels really good. There it is. Okay. When you stop eliminating foods or restricting yourself to a number of points or calories, you naturally build that trust in yourself. I don't have to restrict myself. I can have any food around me and I don't feel the need to eat it or overeat it. I can go to a buffet and I can take one small plate and enjoy the food and leave feeling light and energized and weigh less tomorrow. There can be an entire table of desserts. I don't really want any of them. That is it. That is building that trust in yourself and that belief in your ability to be around any food and not want it. And guess what that's called, guys? Freedom around food, peace with food. All of a sudden, you don't want to overeat. So, restricting your restriction and simply focusing on my brain can change. I can get there. I can want to eat less. That is really the key. You can start listening to your body, trusting your body and your ability to just do this on your own. And it all falls into place and it feels so amazing. Okay. All right. That's what I have for you today. I will see you on the next episode. Bye.